Thank you, Jenny, and welcome to our panel discussion. So this panel discussion will focus on the topics that were presented by our external experts. And to quickly recap, Jay spoke about vertical integration and consolidation. Jeff spoke about identity and AI. And Oliver spoke about database targeting. And as promised, we will also open up for questions, both from the audience here in the room, but also from the web. And let's jump into the panel discussion, starting on the topic of consolidation and vertical integration. And then we will do a Q&A on each topic. So, first question to Jay. Consolidation often leads to a smaller number of major players dominating the market. What effect does this have on competition, innovation, and diversity within the ad tech industry?
I didn't hear the very first part of that, pardon me.
So consolidation often leads to a smaller number of major players dominating the market.
Right. I guess I would say that the ad tech business is never going to be 10 players. There's always going to be, there's too much venture capital out there supporting way too many companies that frankly don't belong to be in business because they're great technologies, they're not real businesses. I don't think that's going to change. It hasn't changed in 10 years. Now, what's the good news on the flip side of too many point solutions and too much funding for these small companies? They're really innovative. They're creating amazing new technologies that larger companies like MGI and others will acquire because they're not real businesses themselves, but they definitely will fit in to the platform at some point. So I think overall you're going to basically see a continuation of funding for small startup companies on the technology side, and you're going to continue to see larger companies acquire the technology because it's the old adage, buy or build. Take the time to build, or you can just buy something very quickly.
And feel free to add to this if anyone wants to add something.
Sure. Look, I think just to extend what Jay's saying, we as an organization already have been actually doing that. Our early on conscious call to actually make Moments.ai as a part of our family was like we knew this is going to happen, so we got to plan it ahead of time rather than actually panicking at the last minute. Another similar decision was when we decided to actually make Dataseed as a part of our organization. These are the state-of-the-art solutions which have been built for the future. And vertical integration and consolidation, they go hand in hand. And we still very firmly believe in how can we add more value towards what can be done better for the CTV environment or the video, the recognition capabilities of images, etc. So I second what Jay says, and we have been actually with those principles.
So and a follow-up to that. So speaking about dominating the market, so walled gardens, you spoke about those, Jay. They account for roughly 1/3 of the time spent on internet, but they attract 2/3 of the ad dollars spent globally. Why is that, and do you think that will change?
Why is that? Well, I think they've had an advantage because they've had first-party data for a long time. So they've been able to target their customers, their existing customers, in a way that the open web wasn't able to. That's changing. It's not going to change. I mean, the reality of it is those are from very large, dominant players who've got a lot of funding behind them, and that's not going to necessarily change right away. But the open web is going to continue to grow in size. It's going to continue to grow in complexity, but in efficiency. That's going to allow people like Ali and others in the agency side to have a choice beyond just the walled gardens.
Can I add a little to that?
Sure.
I think it's worth noting that confidence and trust in these companies is at an all-time low. I think nearly everyone I've interacted with at the C-level in ad tech has read the U.S. Department of Justice filing against Google. And they've seen, I mean, literally when I read that document, and I read it twice, cover to cover, the day it was released, and I had at least a half dozen light bulb moments where I suddenly understood why Google had been doing things in such a obtuse or half-assed or obscure, opaque way. And you have to realize that there are dozens of very well documented accusations in those filings where Google is playing variable take rate games, and they are not seeking to optimize yield for their publisher partners. They are not seeking to optimize return on ad spend for their advertiser partners. And marketers need better alternatives. They need trustworthy alternatives. And Facebook, of course, has quite a history. I think we've all watched from afar with astonishment at the rapid growth and emergence of Amazon Media Group as a titan that literally is defining the retail media sector, which is arguably the second hottest element of the advertising space behind CTV. However, if you manufacture products, if you manufacture diapers or toothpaste or t-shirts or shoes, increasingly, I don't think most people realize Amazon owns and operates 3,000 plus different brands that are vending product across Amazon.com today. Amazon diapers, Amazon toothpaste, Amazon clothing, Amazon, etc. And they have huge product groups inside of Amazon that are continually harvesting all of Amazon's data about what people are searching for, what they're shopping for, what they're purchasing, at what price points. And that's all market research for them to power their next generation of products. And if you sit down with people at P&G, if you sit down with people at Nike, they have exceptionally deep, strong reservations about continuing to send their data and their media budgets to those types of partners.
But it's only the last few years,
Right.
because
True.
exactly this trust has built the big giants, part of it at least. Because when we bought, for example, Platform 161, the Verve DSP it's called now, we had, the problem was they didn't get customers, because customers had something, yeah, if I'm a marketing manager, I'm going to Google, I'm going to Facebook, because if something is maybe not efficient, I choose the big one, the big brand. Now you see really that there's more and more awareness coming up that it's more about the quality, and that especially the large ones are sometimes doing other things with your data than you would like them to do, or playing with your margins and things.
I would do. My mic is not on. Now it is. I would add 2 points to that. And first of all, the view from a client perspective and not from a techie perspective. I mean, we are all, I would say, quite good at what we are doing and exactly knowing what is happening. The Bernanke case you are referring to, I don't know if somebody in this room knows about it. And the clients, I can tell you, they don't give a shit about it. Yeah, to be honest, here in this round. And the main reason is the complexity of what we are dealing with right now is too high. And the management worldwide, globally, if you are running a global company, do you want really to have a DSP in Germany? And I mean, take Europe. How many countries we have? We are not America. Yeah, we are here, Europe, with a lot of borders and so on, different cultures. This is the main reason we are fighting against. But it's, you know how it is. It is a difficult fight to take. And I think that, Jay, what you stated before is the right answer to it. Innovation will never come from those big silos because they are seeking just to earn more money. So we will have a lot of new and small, nimble companies that will emerge into the market. And then the biggest point is we need companies like MGI to give them more scalability because they have maybe the right solution. But if you don't scale the solution, what do we do?
And a question directed to you, Remco. Where does MGI currently stand in terms of vertical integration?
We are, I hope that became clear today, we are vertically integrated. And we did it via M&A, because that was the fastest way to build it. If you do this organically, greenfield, it's going much slower. If we then look, yes, we are vertically integrated, but the majority of our revenue still is coming from the supply side. And yes, behind every supply dollar, there's also a demand dollar. But we still need to do more towards the demand side. And that's what you have seen before. Match to One, for example, is really leveraging the strength that we have on the supply side, the strength that we have on the data side, and bringing that closer to advertisers. And that's where we have still a bit of work to do. But we are capable to run a full vertical stack with all the advantages, less margin taken, less cost overall in the chain, more transparency, and we can do that multi-channel.
So just quickly on this question, because we want to take some questions from the audience as well. But if the open web consolidates and vertically integrates, will it not just end up like the walled gardens in the end? How will the open web do it differently?
Some of the open web players might become closed gardens. We have seen some trials to that. And also Facebook started pretty open, actually, to be say in the beginning. Apple started open, and they are almost more closing their gardens. There will be some open web players that might also want to do that. And we always say we're getting stronger. We're also a bit of a walled garden. We have a lot of stuff that we can do in-house. But we say we want to have the bridges. We want to have the transparency. So I think it depends a lot on where you position the company. And we are a strong believer in making media better, as we also say. And making media better is meaning you make it more transparent, you make it more efficient, and in the end, you help advertiser and publisher to both become better.
Anyone want to quickly chime in on that?
I can add to this. Look, Danish, back in the US, there is a evolution of some new walled gardens that we actually see. And I'll give an example, Disney, right? It's about so much data that they have that Walmart is another example that we closely see that's so close to Amazon. Now, end of the day, it's about a company's belief and principles. What kind of solution do you really want to bring out? Is it only about making money, or it's, as Remco mentioned, let's make media better? What kind of solutions you really want to bring out to your customers in this complicated ecosystem? So yes, there will be some, but again, ultimately, it's the trust factor, it's the alternative solutions, it's the complexities of the ecosystem, and companies like us are very fairly positioned because we are actually really trying to solve those complicated problems in the sense that we are still an open internet supportive company. So I do expect some new names for sure.
I would also add something to that, but Jay, please.
I said quickly.
Quickly, yeah. We have time.
Yeah, we got 4911.
Yeah.
This guy's not going anywhere. Are you? So I would argue that it's actually would be very hard for somebody to create a walled garden because you need scale. And even if you talk about somebody like a Disney or something like that, now you're talking about something remember, Disney's theme parks, film, it's all these variety of entertainment businesses. Oh, and by the way, they have an online business, right? Amazon got big because Amazon started selling online, right? They're selling books, so culturally. I mean, all you need to do is really look to what's happened with the telcos, right, over the years. I mean, all the telcos, they tried to buy, they said, wow, we've got AT&T, I've got like 45 million, mobile IDs, mobile customers, now I can sell advertising to them. Well, it's a very different culture, the online advertising world, than it is from a telco. You've seen it with, Singtel buy Amobi, then they divested it. You've seen AT&T buy Xandr, they got rid of it. Verizon bought AOL, then Yahoo, they got rid of it. And it's not necessarily that the technology didn't work, the cultures didn't work. Yeah. So you really need to factor that in, is my only comment as it relates to the new walled garden, so to speak.
Yeah, I think you're going to see an increased number of CTV platforms continue to pursue walled garden strategies. Roku, proprietary Roku ID, don't share any IDs outside of their walled garden. Disney's following the same track. Netflix is following the same track. NBC Universal is following the same track. It's going to be prevalent, and it's largely because, look, 30 years ago, they were the kings of the castle. Like, they dominated advertising spend, and those were advertisers going directly to those companies. And I think their walled garden strategies are largely an attempt to return to that. They want to eliminate the intermediaries as much as they possibly can and harvest the optimal total number of dollars and margin take rate themselves. Plain and simple. Is that possible in mobile or open web? I think it's exceptionally more challenging. For scale, for the breadth of traffic, et cetera, it seems far less likely.
Yeah, so let's open up to questions from the audience.
I wanted to,
Oh, sorry,
yeah,
Adam.
I just wanted to add to all of this discussion. Scale is one point of the side, but the other side is what's the worthiness of this silo that is emerging? Because look at Netflix right now. They tried it, but they have no scale. So what is the worthiness of Netflix as a silo right now? You know? And the same is with Amazon. You have something in your hand. Whenever I'm doing a campaign, a performance campaign on Amazon, I know exactly how much I will sell of my items. And then the cultural thing comes also, kicks in, because Walmart, for example, yes, they have a lot of data, but do they really know how online is working? I mean, now I would need to talk to your daughter, but I mean,
Me too.
yes, but you know what I mean. You always need to have in mind that silos aren't that easy to use. And in TV in Germany, especially, we have it. We have two companies that built a common force. They called the D force. It was really funny for them to be called like that. And they created ATV as a silo. But do you know how they are scaling? They are scaling limited. They never passed a critical mass in terms of it's skyrocketing. So do they have fun with this silo? I don't know. Is Google still having the better silo? Yes.
But not to forget, we're talking about a market that has hundreds of billions of size,
Yes.
which will allow several business models and which will allow several parties. But what we see, you need a certain size to innovate because this market is changing and you need to adapt to it. You need to go into contextual. You need to do things with your data. You need to verticalize. So you need a certain minimum size, but then with a good business model and good customer acquisition strategies, you can really gain market shares in this market.
Okay. So now let's open up to questions from the audience and on the topic of vertical integration and consolidation, and also from the web.
Yeah, so I'm going to take one from the web.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more helicopter perspective. It's about the value of data. And this one is for you, Remco. So question coming in is, can it be the case that the value of your data and your access to various data sets is higher than your enterprise value for a strategic acquirer in the sector? Would you be open to that idea, or would you prefer to remain independent?
I've learned one thing. As a CEO and as a board member, you should not talk about the valuation of your company. So that's, let's say, giving already part of the answer. I think that the data part that we're building, the data that we have in the company, with the gaming part, but also all the data that we get from our exchanges, our SDK base, is a huge value. But as with a lot of, how to say it, raw materials, you need to get the value out of it. And that's what we are working at. So just having data, there's a lot of parties that have data. It's really what you do with it. And that is what builds the value. And I hope that today we are making clear that that's what we are working on.
We have a saying for that at Pilot, and we are saying having data without inventory is nothing worse. It's like having the best fuel on the planet, but you don't have the rocket. So.
Any questions from the room? Don't be shy.
Thank you. It's Fiona Alford-Williams from Medicine. We're talking about Google and Meta having these existential threats going on. They're not going to sit back and let people take their lunch away from them. How do you see them reacting to the changing environment?
Remco, why don't you? I mean,
one of the things they do is buying a lot of companies. So they're really buying technologies. If you see the acquisition, the number of acquisitions that in Google and also in Amazon and all those guys are doing, that's huge. On the other hand, they're also, the bigger you get, the slower you get. And they have not been proven that often that they're good in innovation from within. So again, like before, I think the market is so big. Yes, they will of course fight for it, but you see that some of the things that they are doing is increasing their stake of the cake, margins. It's fully transparent, and it's really super interesting reading the JOD files, what they do to increase margins. And what we see, I think it emphasizes what was said before. A lot of advertisers are getting a bit fed up with working with black boxes, working with companies that use the data for other things. So there's an opportunity.
I'll have another one since no one's taken the mic away. In terms of, the Google cookie situation. Do you think everybody all the advertisers have really taken on board what happened last time and have actually got their act together for next year?
Jeff,
No.
data guy.
I'm astonished how many ad tech companies don't have their act together in preparation for what's coming. If you look at some of the market metrics that have come out in the past 12 months, a lot of the tactics that are being followed are trying to apply band-aids to the current operating model and extend the current way things have operated as long as possible. And, frankly, disclosure, as a guy who was a VC and sponsored an investment in a company called ID5, that's one of those best band-aids, I love it. But does it look like a genuine, thoughtful, deep response that addresses the fundamental challenges of being entirely reliant upon cookies and hashed emails and everything that we've discussed today? No, it doesn't. I think you're going to look at a majority of the ad tech ecosystem will try to apply band-aids and continue operating as they have thus far. And personally, I believe they face a significant amount of risk for choosing that type of strategy.
I can add a comment here. Look, we had a very large marketing company back in the US to help us position ourselves in front of the holdcos and the large agencies. And Remco and myself had the opportunity to actually meet a lot of executives at the agencies. Apart from some smarter agencies, a lot of agencies, they are not prepared. They have been waiting because they rely eventually on a lot of solutions. There will be a panic situation. But again, companies like us who are nimble enough and actually are slightly ahead of the game in terms of our planning and our thought process. And there are more companies. It's not just MGI or Verve Group is doing this. So the agencies who represent these big budgets, they are not completely ready. I'm sure Ollie can add from the perspective of not just partnering with us, but how do they feel? Because they have to represent these customers who are unaware of how January 1st, 2025 is going to look from.
I think just to add, I think it's unclear what the new normal is. I think there are a lot of people, there's a lot of guesswork happening right now on what would the world without cookies look like. We have our take and we have our expertise over the last few years, and we believe we have a compelling solution. But then there are other parties out there who are also thinking on those lines and trying to outguess on what that new normal is. So I actually think the onus is largely on technology platforms, like MGI, to define what that new world order is going to be. I think agencies and advertisers, will catch up, but the onus and the heavy lifting has to be driven by some of the tech platforms out there.
And also from looking at M&A cases that we have at the table, I'm shocked how badly prepared a lot of the companies in the market are. And it's a bit like, what we saw when Apple introduced IDFA, people couldn't use identifiers anymore as much on Apple. So they shifted their marketing budget to Google. But if Google also has no identifier anymore, it's getting a bit narrow. And we have seen it with GDPR introduction as well. A lot of people closed their eyes and thought it will not come or it will be delayed, and it will be delayed. But at a certain date, it's there. And that's the time when a company that is prepared can really gain market shares.
Thank you for the question, Fiona. That segues nicely into, starting the discussion on identity and AI, which we already did now. But a question to Jeff. So when do you think we will have completely reached a new world where there are no non-consent-based IDs, and are there other changes on the horizon which will have similar impact as ATT and IDFA?
Well, if you take Google at their word that they intend to turn off cookies in Chrome in 2024 and Android ad IDs a year to two to follow, which, again, many companies in ad tech do not believe is going to be the case, which, again, astonishes me. I do believe, and I've heard from senior people at Google, that it is a concrete fact. I think you're looking at the last remaining channel, which at present has widely available free identifiers, is CTV. However, as I noted earlier, a lot of the very large players in that space are pursuing a walled garden strategy, and they are moving from transparent flow of identifiers and related information to opaque. And they're replacing open IDs with a proprietary ID in an effort to consolidate demand back to them directly and eliminate intermediaries from the ecosystem. So I think collectively, in terms of the media channels with largest allocation of spend, I think, yes, in the next 3 to 5 years, I think we'll be looking at a landscape that is predominantly either opt-in consent managed or dictated by the underlying platforms to be operating on a proprietary identifier with a different, although related, set of challenges.
And a follow-up to that. So what effects will this have on CPMs long term? So in your presentation, you mentioned that CPMs decreased on iOS following IDFA, but it increased on Android, right? Just because they get relative strength. But when we move to a world where there are no, basically, identifiers, what happens to CPMs then? Does it level out when the competition is equal?
I think 2024, 2025 are going to be years of absolute chaos and turmoil. I think marketers will face a tremendous set of challenges trying to figure out and map out for themselves where to reallocate their budgets to continue to harvest optimal performance out of advertising supply. I think it will force marketers and agencies to test and experiment very, very rapidly, a lot broader set of alternatives than they may have tested previously. At the same time, I think they're going to default to safety as well. I mean, simply put, dollars go where they're happy and comfortable. So is Google going to grow search revenue as a result of turning off cookies in Chrome? Yes, full stop. Is Google going to grow their own Android App Store ad promotional product revenue as a result of turning off cookies and turning off Android ad IDs? Yes, full stop. I think companies that are positioning themselves to enable marketers to very rapidly test across a wide variety of different channels to most accurately measure or estimate where the new pockets of opportunity for performance and attractive ROAS exist will become dramatically more attractive to marketers and agencies than they are today.
I would like to add something to that. Do you really think that publishers and so are really ignoring that point that they can't track? Or isn't it maybe also so that they are hoping for it, because where no measurement is, they can start to do business as they did before? I mean, TV was and is still, we are talking about digital today here. The biggest media spends are in a channel that we can't track. And we have just some implications of technical solutions to track it. So we always need to keep in mind that none of us hopes for the worst case scenario. Most people are hoping for the best case scenario. And that is going back. Yeah, back to the future. It's like in the film, in the movie.
Yeah, I think as Jeff mentioned, and as we have learned from the history of switching of dollars to different operating systems, we'll have to learn from the media planners. Maybe the dollars are shifting too fast enough to DOH. Scale would absolutely matter by then, so we'll continue to make sure that we acquire more and more scale on our platforms to help the customers. But it is sort of in a slightly ambiguous situation for some period of time. Yeah. But who will come and solve it? I think all of us have to together solve for it, because we represent both the advertisers and the publishers. We can't just sit putting our hand on hand, let's wait and watch, right? This industry together has to solve for it.
But if you go high level, People need to advertise their products.
Right.
People have their budgets, or let's say companies have their budgets, and the money needs to go somewhere. And those that offer the better solutions and also the better measuring of the results of those solutions will take the budgets. And part of it will be walled gardens, but there is a big world outside of that. And that's what gives a lot of opportunities.
Important point, because I think CPMs, looked at standalone or CPMs regressing. If you look at it as a standalone metric, you might have concerns. But as Remco said, the budgets I still think will continue to grow, right? I think today, if an advertiser has enough data about a user to say, I'm willing to pay $10 because I know you're going to buy this car from me. Tomorrow, maybe the advertiser actually has to, potentially spray and pray and look at 4 users and willing to pay $2.5 each. So it looks like the CPMs are coming down, but there's still $10 that the advertiser has that he's looking to spend. So yeah, I think they go hand in hand, and yet they're orthogonal. I think CPMs might slide down as data starts disappearing, but I think budgets will continue to grow.
Yeah, and also often an opportunity. If we see with DataSeed, where we do contextual targeting on iOS, on Apple, if you buy your inventory 20% cheaper and still are good at targeting, because the CPMs are down of unidentified targets, you buy cheaper, and if you then have the right ways to target contextually, you have a win on both sides.
Yeah. So in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, right? So I guess relatively, if you have more data.
We try not to be too blind.
No, we're the one-eyed man. Okay, so any questions from the room on the topic of data and AI? Or identity in AI?
Yeah, hi. Just probably trying to sum that up a bit. I think there's general consensus that first-party data is getting more valuable. But what does it actually imply for you? Actually, do you see it more as an opportunity if the cookie goes away because you can win market share, or is your DSP exposure, in your view, too small to really monetize it enough? So just kind of a summary on that one.
We see it as a clear opportunity in a market where everybody's playing with the same weapons, it's the wrong word now, but where everybody has the same means. It's difficult to gain market share because you're just competing head to head. But if there's disruptions, like there are here, where part of the parties doesn't invest in solutions, where part of the parties is just sleeping, there's a much bigger opportunity to gain market share. And that's what we see already, that a lot of people starting to test now, more, let's say, lately. Also, the market being under pressure, people are willing to switch and try new things. That's the positive of it. But we are still also a bit, surprised that a lot of people don't. Like Atom, a solution which we already announced, I think, 4 years ago. The take-up of it and really getting people to use it, to understand what we're doing with it, took much longer than we expected. But it's now coming. You see now really that companies need to prepare for this. Advertisers need to prepare. And the awareness, especially by, I would say, the larger advertisers, starts to really come. But there's a big field of advertisers that are not aware of actually what's coming. And the same is also with a lot of agencies. They just continue doing what they did before because it's easy. But, and here compliment to Pilot, I mean, that's the reason we really like to work with them. They are super innovative, really looking what can you do with data, how can you optimize. And those are the players that will win and gain more market share.
Hopefully.
Are you working on it?
Yeah, I'll quickly add to this. Look, again, it all depends on what sort of solutions you take. It's the most difficult part today is, and was always, to ask for the first-party data from the advertisers. They are not willing to share it with everyone. So in the coming times, the level of confidence, the solutions that you actually go towards, and just alluding towards what Remco mentioned, like DataSeed, we have the ability to actually go find users where 80% of the IDFAs are gone. So it's the trust that you build in, and talking and working with those advertisers to actually, this is the value we bring on. is it's going to be a combination of things, but we believe that if your solutions are good enough, the advertisers should be willing to share the first-party data. It will be the most valuable thing.
Do we have any questions from the web?
No questions for the web at the moment.
So then we can move on to the topic of database targeting. And Oliver, you presented us with some solutions for the new world. So contextual, first-party data, behavioral, and regional data. How do you see this landscape shaking out? Will one or two of them prevail, or will it be a mix?
The quick answer is it will always be a mix. You can't just bet on one thing. You have to combine those things. You have to think of new solutions. We are talking so much about new solutions. For example, in Europe, we have this solution that's called UTIC, where the 4 telco companies, Vodafone, Telefonica, Orange, and Deutsche Telekom, sit together and created a new identity graph, for example, to solve a lot of issues that we are discussing today. But the question is, what will help you to scale? This is the question that you need to ask yourself. And then you use the data with which you will scale and get the best performance.
And speaking about first-party data, I mean, we're talking a lot about how important that will become, but won't this make the walled gardens even more powerful, or won't it be harder to dethrone them?
They are already powerful. And I mean, the question is not, will they be more powerful? The question is, how will we act on it? Either we follow them blindly, or we play the game copycat. But as a historian, I really don't know any case where you are a copycat and then you surpass the one who invented it. Or will you be innovative? And I think the last one is the most powerful in getting new market shares also.
I'll get back to one of the great examples that Ollie shared today. Like if you have 2 rooms and you have X number of users in one and X number sitting, you know, if an advertiser uses a very large platform, they would say, you know, Facebook or something really works for me. But the mind shift and the thinking towards where the right users and how you actually go and reach out to them in an identity-less world is going to be a win-win situation for companies that actually empowers those solutions.
And it's also an opportunity. I mean, think of it. They get rid of the first-party data. In the market, we have a lot of first-party data solutions. As I mentioned, UTIC, you did ID5, NetID, and so on and so on. I can make a list here for 20 minutes. But this means also that if Google is not betting on the ID graph, there comes the opportunity with it. New market shares that the outer world of the silos can, again, gain for themselves. It's all about the story that you're telling.
So we spoke about.
Also, sorry, one
Go ahead.
last point. I do think that trust and transparent operations are going to be a challenge for the walled gardens. I think it will be an increasing challenge for them. I also think that they're distracted in a variety of ways right now, where is Google investing the majority of its innovation R&D budgets today to fight the new threat of ChatGPT and preserve their search dominance? And that is now a red flag, all hands on deck initiative inside the Googleplex. Facebook has had a dozen plus different red flag, all hands on deck innovation initiatives in the past 5-6 years. Most recently AR, VR, and now AI. I think AI is an extraordinary new tool. I think it's going to serve as a distraction that can open a window for smaller companies to compete against them more effectively in various of their revenue streams.
I want to add to that point. This is something that we already also saw. I mean, just think of Alexa. When Alexa was introduced, everybody was, this is the new thing. Yeah, everything will shift to that. I will talk to Alexa. I will not anymore search on Google. I will do blah, blah, blah. Fun fact, Alexa never scaled. So, I mean, yes, Jeff, the thing that you said is true, but let's see where we will come to. I mean, it will change our habits. And the use is changing fast. Take TikTok. What is the biggest threat for Meta? Is it really the ID? Or is it a new player that is doing completely something different? What was Spotify here in Stockholm? What was Spotify doing with the media music business? We consumed a CD, we bought a CD, we bought something and listened to that 1 month. Ask your kids, how long are they listening to an album? Or even are they listening to an album? Or just one song? So everything is changing. Media habits are changing that fast.
And Oliver, from the perspective of a large media agency, managing the budgets of many advertisers, why did you decide to work with Verve?
The last slide said it all. Nobody can repeat it. Maybe just a little bit more information about it. As an agency, you have a lot of talks with different players on the market because everybody comes to you and says, hey, I have the next big thing. I have the next solution. Come, work with us, and so on and so on. And let me say 5 years back into, let's say 5 years back in time, what we saw is that all of the major companies, they don't came up with innovations anymore. So they were really just, what Sam said, monetizing their platforms and squeezing out as much as they can. But that's a shitty situation for an agency because we have to talk to the clients. And we are also a business, so we also need our margins. It's not so that we are working for free. Yeah? And let us come to the point that we search for multiple partners. That's not meaning that we are just working with MGI. But we have with MGI something special, and this means that we are talking on a different level, on a transparent level, where we can say, okay, this is the case that we are seeing right now. How can we solve it together? I mean, Rami, where are you? I can't see you there. How many data sets you are pushing to us so that we can analyze them and also think of solutions? And this is not common, quite common in this business, that somebody is helping you to create your own solutions. Take the stuff, the ACO that we invented with Verve. How many platforms are willing to be so nimble and to do actually something? You know how the process of implementing stuff functions with big companies? They don't ask you like, what will you solve? The first question that you get, how much money do you bring to the table? Is innovation as you're investors? Do you ask your startup really, how much will I regain in the next months? And yes, you ask that, but how much will you bring me? I mean, startup will then die immediately because they don't know. A good innovation don't know. WhatsApp, what was the business model of WhatsApp? And look at now.
And a closing question for on this topic for all of you. We can start with Jeff. So would answer with 2 sentences. How do you think the future of advertising will look like in the mid to long term in terms of database targeting?
I'll keep it short and bold. I think of the 11, 12,000 companies in the ad tech, martech ecosystem, I think you see a third of them vanish in the next 5 years.
Jay, we just run straight down the line.
You know, I would say that I don't have any data to support or not support that. There's certainly going to be a lot of companies that are going to get wiped out. But again, the pace of innovation is extraordinary. So lead us not, you know, and we don't want to end up, or I would hate to see us end up. I'm a very half full guy. And, you know, one of the exciting things about the industry that we're in, and you guys are investors in this company, is the innovation, the speed of innovation, both for mid-sized companies like this. Don't underestimate Google and Facebook. Just don't ever do that. I mean, you know, just don't, it's easy to pick on them. But these are the companies like MGI and their size. They still have the speed. They still have the flexibility. They still have the creativity to really win in the open web. And I think on the innovation side, I just see the amount of money that still goes into startups, and there's some brilliant startups that are really not businesses long term, but they're great technology.
I said 2 sentences, not 2.
I know. Sorry. I took his third.
Oliver?
I will save 2 sentences and say I see it the same way.
Okay. Samir?
Oh, look, scale and simplicity. Consolidation will happen. If not 1/2, there will be a lot of companies which are not ready, or they don't even happen to believe that they are not going to be ready. But I very strongly and firmly believe, support with the partners and external viewers, we are extremely confident that we have a very bright future. We are preparing ourselves to solve for the complex problems across multiple channels to help businesses all the way.
Sana?
Just an extension of what I think Jay said. Speed of innovation is going to be existential, right? Like I would hate to be a company at some point where my only moat is scale, right? I think you have to have a value, you have to solve a real problem, and then you build scale on top of the moat. But if you grow big enough where the only advantage you have is scale and you stop innovating as a company, I think you're on a downward trajectory from there. So I'd love to stay nimble and love to adapt quickly.
Remco?
Yeah, I would also build on that. I think agility is very important for us, and that's partly innovating ourselves from within. It's also buying smart purchases, but it's also partnering, and I think that got not so much. I mean, we are partnering with Apple and with Google. We are one of the early partners that is working with Sandbox, testing together with them. We're also working with Scat, we do a lot of things. So it's not only we are an island and everybody is against each other, it's also about smart partnering in the market. Rocket, it's a startup that we're working with, but they're pretty good, they're pretty smart. You don't need to buy everything, so we partner with them. So also those things, I would really say it's playing the ecosystem right, seeing the problem, and then finding multiple solutions from different angles, because nobody here really knows where it exactly goes. We know the direction, but we don't see the exact solution for it. And having a very good, and it's also more than 2 sentences, sorry, but having a very good opt-in base with our games, we didn't talk a lot about that, but that allows us, first of all, we have a lot of data from it, but it allows us also a lot of testing. We can test efficiencies. We can even use panel out of them, ask them things. So this whole opt-in gamer database is super helpful for also rolling things out. So it's a combination of it. There's not one answer to it. It's for me, it's playing the right cards and then executing them in the correct way.
Interesting. And any last questions from our audience? And any questions from the web?
No more questions from the web.
We have overwhelmed everybody too much with data, I think.
Yeah, so I think we'll end on that note, and I'll hand it over to you, Remco, for an outlook and closing remarks.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you.